28-8, take it easy, 57.
Yeah.
Centuries ago, famed mathematician Katherine Johnson wrote, "The whole idea of going into space was new and daring. There were no textbooks, so we had to write them." Now, the United Federation of Planets stands on a new brink of exploration and learning, yet again pushing beyond the bounds of contemporary understanding, and for a new dawn proclaim proudly once again, these are the Voyages of.
Captain's log. While charting a star system, our scans revealed ruins that warranted further investigation. The initial away team sent back word that this world may be a previous colony for the Hur'q, an insectoid species of spacefarers believed to have been extinct for several hundred years. More away teams have been sent down, and Commander Hulata has been assigned to lead the charting efforts.
Hello, hello, and welcome to the Voyages of. I am your storyteller tonight. My name is Roxanne, and we are here for some Star Trek shenanigans. I have with me tonight Amber Jacoba playing Commander Halata, and John Kennedy playing Lieutenant Commander Charlie.
Hello.
I have Shawn Parks playing Lieutenant Commander Crumbs. What's your name? Keed Haskins. He's our medical officer. And then I have Danny DeLisle playing Lieutenant Junior Grade Rozrin Irax. And tonight the captain's log did give the wrong title. Tonight's episode is actually called Ancient Bones and Broken Shells. So everybody plays the lute was last week. You guys got to have a fun episode. Now we're getting into some creepy, spoopy ruins. So be prepared. Before we get too far into things, I do want to say this stream is in no way sponsored by or endorsed by Modiphius Entertainment, the publishers of Star Trek Adventures, but we do want to thank them and everybody associated with Star Trek for letting us play in this world. It is one of our favorites here, and we have a really good time doing the show for y'all. So this is our penultimate episode before our half-season break. So be sure to join us next week at the same time for that half-season finale. I believe Rob will be in the GM's chair for that one. But yeah, thank you all for coming and joining us and sticking with us for the last 10 weeks. It's been a real good time, and we hope that you all have enjoyed it as well. So I'm sure there are other announcements that we would normally make right now, but I'll make them at break and at the end of the show because I'll remember them by then. But for now, let's go ahead and hop into the action. So tonight, y'all, you find yourselves, we have our XO, our science officer, our chief medical officer, and our security officer shuttling down. We find them shuttling down to this planet. It's an L-class planet where these ruins have been found that are kind of interesting looking. It's something that we don't find very often throughout. So I think our first foray into the Gamma Quadrant to find these types of ruins, for at least this crew. And there are 2 shuttles coming down, one piloted by the ship's con officer, Lieutenant Aishan Hoth. She is piloting the shuttle that y'all are using. And then there's a second shuttle coming down with you, piloted by Lieutenant Liv Stern, that has got a bit of a security detachment and other science officers and equipment. So the shuttles kind of break through the atmosphere of this. An L-class planet, for those of you that don't know, is one that is considered barely habitable by human life, usually lush with vegetation, but not much in the way of animal life. It has been determined, and as the shuttles are coming down, even if Charlie is reading the scans and checking out what's going on, the atmosphere is breathable by everyone on the crew. It's one of those kind of sweet spots where it's a mix of oxygen and argon, but it's not going to be detrimental for y'all to be out unsuited. The shuttles do have a complement of environmental suits if someone does wish to or feels that they are experiencing effects of the atmosphere. And if the atmosphere changes, you guys have not been able to study this planet for very long. And so you never know what kind of atmospheric changes may occur on this planet's cycle. But these 2 shuttles break through the atmosphere of this L-class planet, and chirp is heard, and Lieutenant Stern comes through on the comms and says, Lieutenant Stern to Lieutenant Hoth. And your pilot says, "Go ahead, Liv." She says, "Well, I'm seeing a clearing to our west about 250 meters from the ruins." And Victor looks around a little bit. She says, "I see it. Looks good to me. See you on the ground." So the shuttles start to make their approach. They land in this clearing, and you start to disembark your shuttle. The trees tower above you. The trunks are thick and gray. The foliage is just lush and green. And you can like smell that. Have you ever been in like a richly forested area, and you can smell the vegetation and the clean air and the fresh air and all this stuff. You can. It's a huge change from being on the ship and having the recycled canned oxygen and things like that. This is you're kind of taking a moment to enjoy and relish that feeling of being on this richly forested area. Tricorder readings confirm the atmosphere environment, and it's like the air is warm and damp. Some of the science officers are kind of complaining a little bit, kind of quietly. They're like, because this is not climate controlled in any way, like the ship is. They are not enjoying the warmer, thicker weather. You actually hear Ensign Letter, who's if you remember from The Naked Nowhere, is the science officer that was left in the lab with Bacchus. But Ensign Letter can be heard murmuring that it feels like breathing soup. And Lieutenant Minkler, a security officer, actually picks up a case and just kind of pushes it into his arms and is like, "Then wear the suit if you don't like it." He's like, tired of hearing about it. Let's move on. So looking around, what would you when you get off the shuttle, what do you think you'd be doing first?
I have a question first.
Fantastic.
Is Rozrin going along as just standard security detail, or is there something in particular they think that they need security for?
Sure. I'm going to say kind of a little bit of both. Now, we know that these are Hur'q ruins, or that they are believed to be Hur'q ruins, and there is no sign of life on the planet. They have not, the previous away team did not find anything, did not interact with anything, but it is the Hur'q. And so I think it's generally, you're on an away team, anything can happen. It's good to have somebody with security skills, but we don't know a lot about the Hur'q. They've been extinct for centuries, right? But they were very dangerous when they existed. So I think part of it is just in case, let's send some security down with the science folks just to see what what we have here. And Dr. Haskins, I feel like you have an interest in this. Your interest is kind of twofold. You're there to help if there does happen to be any sort of exposure to something by a local, fungus or anything, somebody touches a plant and it spits at them, like happened in every episode of the original series, but you're half Klingon. The Hur'q are a major part of Klingon history.
Yeah,
and
the Sword of Kalis.
Yeah, they are the ones who stole the Sword of Kalis for, flashback to a DS9 episode. So there's interest in this for you. You may find a Klingon artifact or something. So that's kind of what brought you here. And I kind of see that Keed volunteered to go on this away mission, even if he wasn't initially reached out to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because finding some ruins, that's amazing. Some signs of the civilization. Maybe we can learn more about them, how to defeat them, or are they still
absolutely
and stuff. Yeah.
I'm
assuming then we're all armed.
Yes. Everybody has their standard. I would assume phaser type 2s.
And then I would have my standard emergency med kit for anything that arises.
Fantastic. Okay. Is there anything special that somebody would have thought to have brought? I should have asked beforehand.
Charlie's bringing a lot of scientific equipment.
Yeah, I assume most of the crates and equipment that, like, the whole science crew on the other ship is just like, it's like 3 people, a security officer, and like all of your equipment. It's like you packed for an excursion.
Pretty much.
Yeah, everyone else has their, packs and their phaser, and Charlie has like the big trunks with the,
And the other security officers are like, were we just brought here to carry things? And, I see Charlie going, yeah.
Also, the last time we investigated something that ended up being ruins, it wasn't ruins. So,
Yeah. Always be
paranoia.
Exactly. So, it's a good sized crew. Now, it is unfortunate that you had to land the shuttles, a quarter of a kilometer away from where you want to set up, but it was the safest place to do so. But yeah, so those security officers and those science officers, everybody's getting kind of a little, I hope you hiked some mountain trails in the holodeck recently, because you're hiking now. It is a bit of a trek to hike to the area, especially with all that observational equipment in tow. But it's easy enough to find. You guys locate the ruins, and it oddly kind of does look like a weird sort of colony. Now it's got tons of like mounds and almost like little hills. There are some that are uncovered with moss, but most of them have been overgrown a little bit. There's a body of water, like a lake, off to one side, which is part of why it was so hard to find a landing spot close to this area. But yeah, you have these little hills. Now, for those of you that don't know, does everybody on my cast know what the Hur'q are? Familiar with them to some point? Okay. The Hur'q were an insectoid species. So when you see these colonies and things, it kind of makes sense for them to kind of look like they're underground, like they almost look like burrows that they have like dug into the ground and made. Almost Hobbit hole-like for us modern fantasy fans, but a little not as refined in this area. Can I get an insight science? I'll go ahead and go for all of you. Give me an insight science as you're walking up to this ruin area.
What's our difficulty?
Difficulty of 1. It's not a tough check. Okay, got 2 from Keed, so that would earn a momentum. 1 from Rozrin, good. 2 from Charlie would earn us another momentum, and 2 from Lotta. Well, we're capped out, so you do have 1 that you can use to gain additional information if you'd like, but I'll tell you what you're looking at. As you guys are making your way through this thickly forested area, looking up and looking at the trees around you, You notice there are things kind of in the tree. So I believe it was Rozrin got one. You notice that there are things on the branches, but you really can't, you're not focusing too much on what they are because they're not moving and they're not alive, so you don't have to shoot it. So everybody else, like, you notice that they're like, some of them are like, they look like ribbons, maybe, or small strips of cloth. Some of them have small pieces of something like tied to them, small pieces of paper. If you want to, do you want to use that extra momentum to get a little bit more info? I'm going to say that Halada, you reach out and you kind of look at one that's close enough to your eye line, and you see that it's a piece of paper that has some language scrawled on it, and you don't recognize it. I don't know if anybody here is skilled in communications. We don't have a communications officer on the cast, so you guys just get to go, I don't know what this is. But yeah, you see some cloth on it. You see another that's got like maybe a piece of what looks to be maybe pottery tied to it. And you take note of it. And you all see this, but you really don't know what it's signifying. It's just something that you see. And as you get closer to the ruins, that becomes even more like every branch now has them. As you get around to the clearing, more and more trees have these on them. And it's very strange. But does anybody want to make any other scans or anything with their tricorders, or do you just kind of want to start to mill about the ruins? Find a place to set up?
I mean, I'll leave the scanning to the science.
No problem.
Can we scan to get an idea of how old the cloth is?
Sure. Whoever would like to run a tricorder scan on that, go ahead, and I'm going to make that a difficulty 2.
Okay.
Charlie wants to.
Absolutely.
Charlie's very interested in this.
Charlie is like scanning all this. Charlie scans things faster than I can think of to give you rolls for them.
What are we rolling for this?
Go ahead and give me an insight science on that. I think is going to be the best one.
You said difficulty 2?
Yeah, I was going to say, how about I assist you?
Please do, because I'm at a 0 right now.
Okay. Yeah, difficulty 2.
So I'll assist, so I just roll one dice, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, that's an 18.
Okay.
Words, right?
Yeah. It looks old.
It certainly does look old. It doesn't look as old as the ruins. I will give you that. It doesn't look like, looking around at, like, you're in the elements in this atmosphere. I'm going to say that it doesn't make sense for some of these things to have been there for like centuries and centuries and centuries without any kind of degradation.
We just got a reroll from the chat.
Oh, nice. So, you want to take it? Go for it.
Yeah. Come on, we can do this. Thank you for the reroll, by the way.
Yes,
thank you.
And yes, thank you, chat.
Success.
And hey, you know what? There you go. Let me go ahead and say that if y'all see momentum or anything come in, do let me know, because I'm not keeping as close an eye on chat tonight as I normally do. So just keep me honest. But let's see here. So with that one success, you've already made the connection that it should, like, there's not enough degradation for me to think that this has been here for a really long time. Like centuries and centuries exposed in this atmosphere, it doesn't make sense that it would not have more signs of weather, with your one success, with a difficulty of 2, I probably could have given, if you'd made 2, I probably could have given you a little bit more concise timing on this. But I'm going to say as a rough estimate, and looking at it, and maybe you're just waiting for some data to come through and some type of analysis to finish up, but you would say, like, the piece of cloth that you're looking at, maybe 100 years. You see some other ones that don't even look that old.
How long do we think this race has been extinct?
Centuries upon centuries.
So it's old fabric. It's old fabric, but it should have like rotted by now if it had been left out in the open for all this time.
Right. It's older fabric, but you don't feel that it's as old as the ruins are.
So somebody, working theory, someone might have found old fabric and then made these very recently. That's interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense for what you know about, or what you think is the case for these ruins. Like go ahead and remember, we do have momentum. Go ahead and run the same type of scan, but run it on some of, like, as you guys get in here and as you folks get in here and you are setting up all the scanning equipment and the observational equipment, and you're setting it up and you're looking at these mounds. The mounds are clearly not recently trod upon. Do you have like the beacon that was left by the previous away team to let you know where this was? But literally, that you don't see a whole lot of movement. It's just in the trees around this ruined colony. And so as you're scanning things, go ahead and give me another insight, or I'll let you also do control science, since you're using the equipment. If one of those is better for you, Charlie, to
Okay.
to see if you can get an age of the ruins themselves. And we do have 6 momentum, so please,
Then some.
please,
I'm gonna use one.
Yay.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna do this. Charlie ate a good breakfast. He's excited. All right. Ooh, that is. What was the difficulty again?
Oh, I'm sorry. The difficulty is a 2.
Oh, okay. Then 2 successes and a crit.
Oh, so we're talking 4 successes then, right?
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, you start getting these readings from these little, which hovelly mound looking areas with large burrows, and the Hur'q were large. It's not like we're talking like, oh, an American water bug defeated the Klingon and almost raised them to extinction, but we're talking big bugs, big insectoid species. And so you see these mounds and you're scanning the ruins and everything, and these ruins are definitely centuries old. At least a millennia. And as far as the stuff that you found in the forest, any of that stuff, like as you're scanning and you're looking, you like, do you think you would have removed some of the stuff from the trees to look at it closer, or put it in some equipment to see if you could get some information off of it?
Oh, Charlie absolutely would have.
And
Okay.
I'd also like to send images back up to the Shenanigans to see if the computer can analyze the language and figure out what language it is.
Sure. Okay. So as you guys are getting that all done, you find out those little bits and bobs that have been tied to trees are far newer. Like some of them are older, we'll say like 600 to 700 years maybe, but they are nowhere near as old as these ruins. And so it points, and some of the things that you find are like as recent as within the last century. So as you're looking at these ruins, go ahead and I'm going to have everybody give me this roll, and this is going to be another insight and science or security, because you're going to be looking for something. And as you're looking around, I want to see if anybody, and yeah, we don't have any of the ships with us, so I'm not going to say that the ship can assist in any way, but.
What's the difficulty?
Give me a difficulty 3, and I'll go ahead and make this a group task. So as long as we can get 3 successes across all of you. Okay. So we're at 4, 5. Fantastic. So as you're scanning, off to the back end of this colony, where it almost looks like you have these burrows that are almost organized in what looks like maybe a housing type structure. Like when you've gone into a village or a town before, there's like a main thoroughfare and you have houses and like maybe the civic buildings and things like that in a humanoid to earth type culture, right? these you have like little clusters and colonies of these large mounds where you assume that means some type of like housing group, and there's not really any remnants of commerce or anything like that. It's just like an old almost camp type settlement, but it seems like it might have been underground, from what you're looking at, which makes sense for the Hur'q, who have in other languages also been referred to as like the burrowers and things like that. With your 5 successes, though, you get some energy readings off of. There's a large mound behind, like to the back, farther in from the water and from where you entered the area. There's a large mound that is got thick moss over the top of it. And you're getting energy readings from that location, though. And as you approach, the energy readings get stronger, and you actually find that there is a door. It is a stony facade. You don't see anything that necessarily looks like modern tech or anything like that, but you find a door underneath some vines that have long since grown over it, and there is still energy going to that door, like an energy source powering that door. And there is like a door, like a Star Trek door hatch onto the side that you can touch and presumably open or lock or whatever.
So it seems to make sense to start with where the energy readings are and work out from here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably so. I will say it does, with that 5, I'll say that it does seem, the energy that's here seems to be focused on this mound.
From what Charlie would know, being both like a science officer and he's got like one of his focuses in anthropology, would the Hur'q have like an advanced power supply that could last that long?
I'm going to say, let's see, with your background, you know that the Hur'q, at least from what little you know of them, they have been known to enter into hibernation for sometimes up to 1,000 years. So that they might have some type of energy source that can at least hold some modicum of power, at least a little bit to maintain through a hibernation cycle. I think that's you would think that that's very possible.
But even if we're speculating that there's Hur'q still here, just the fact of what's in the trees means someone's been here fairly recently, at least within the last 100 years. So they could be the ones maintaining the power here.
Rozrin, give me an insight security check, please. Difficulty 1.
I got a complication. Oops.
Okay. Then is what I'm going to say is how
I
I'm
got
going
a
to enact.
success and a complication. Just
Okay, that's fine. So with the success, you have been feeling watched this entire time. Like, you just have a general sense of unease. You don't know if it's the different atmosphere, or maybe it's just you're reacting to it differently. You don't know if it's just general, I'm a security officer, I've got to protect people and I need to look around and be aware of stuff, or if it's maybe that you know that this could be a potential ruined colony of a very dangerous enemy. Something, though, you just kind of get that little tickle on the back of your neck, like something that you're not alone out there. For your complication, I'm going to say that really stresses you out. like you are heightened. Like, you have, your phaser is not out, but if it had a snap on it, the snap is undone. You have got the safety off. One wrong move, you're going to put a hole in your shoe. It's
so while everyone's like, probably looking at the door energy readings or tricorders or whatever the heck they're doing, Rozrin just like looking around, like trying to pinpoint, where it's at, maybe getting some security like spread out, and around the area,
Sure.
just to be like, you
His
know, yeah, definitely, he would definitely
paranoia.
would want to try to pinpoint, where that's coming from, you
Definitely.
His paranoia was already at a 10. You had to go ratchet it up to an 11.
We're right up to an 11. And I will say at this point also, as you're getting upset and you're kind of like, okay, I want this officer to go over here, I want this one to go over here. And like you're not really even paying attention to what the science people are scanning. It's like you're like,
Yeah.
you're keeping an eye on the surroundings, and you actually hear like your combat chirps, because you've dispatched your little crew and your combat chirps, and you hear, Lieutenant, it's Minkler.
Yes.
I swear I saw something moving in the trees. Do you
All
want me to investigate?
Hold, I'll be right over.
Okay.
Just keep it beat on the direction.
Okay, go. I
basically am trying to get him to be like a pointer dog. Like, stay right there and like, where is it? And then we will go together.
Okay.
So I will let everybody, I will let, I was like, Commander, one of my officers has seen something. So I'm going to go over and investigate.
Keep me
Okay.
posted.
We'll go ahead and follow that track for just a minute. So you go over and you find Minkler, and Minkler is doing exactly what you said. Like, he doesn't have his phaser out because he doesn't want to seem threatening, but he is looking really, really hard at the area, and he's got he doesn't have his phaser out, but he has his tricorder out, and he's trying to scan for any kind of life signs. And you're not picking up, nothing's registering, and you're watching, and so you said you would want to go together to where he saw it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would join him, and then we would like investigate together.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I would want him to stay there till I get there, and then we can together move forward and investigate.
Absolutely. So the two of you start to move toward the edge of the line, and the only thing, like, at first blush, what you're looking at, you see again just branches, and everywhere there are more of those little, I'm trying to even think of a name for those the little bits and bobs that are tied to these trees. You see, again, it's just everywhere here. And as you kind of move into the forest, again, you don't see anything. Like, you see nothing. Your tricorder is not showing any type of life signs. There's not a thermal signature. It's just, it's, it's, you've still got that tickle on the back of your neck. But you don't see anything. You look around. Go ahead and give me an insight security check. I'm going to say difficulty 2.
How much momentum do we have?
We have 5, I believe, 5 or 6 at this point. I think
Can I
we're at
use
6 because I used the last one that was used was actually from the chat, and it actually put you over cap. So we're at 6. So you can buy one.
Can I use one for another die, please?
Absolutely, yeah.
Ooh, I will take. I get all of them, right? Or just the 2? Or
however many successes you got, you can
I
take.
rolled a 4, an 8, and a 1, so that's 4 successes.
Nice.
Yeah.
For that 4, do you have any? What are your focuses?
It is second. Strategy, tactical systems, hand phasers, protocol, and triage.
Okay, I don't think any of those would work for the kind of scan that you're doing, but you still got 4 successes. I was seeing if I could squeeze out another, like, one more from it. Yeah. So you're scanning and you're looking around. Again, the tricorders are not registering anything. Visually, you are looking and you're looking, and you notice movement. And you focus in on this movement, and you see there is a line down of trees, and it's not necessarily like a line, but you see in a line, there's a line where the bits and bobs that have been tied to these trees, there's like, it goes out about, maybe, as far as you can see without it breaking, I'm going to say maybe 30 feet. Every tree or branch that has one of those things, those little bits and bobs are they're moving almost as though something brushed past them. And the rest around it are still. And so that's why they caught your eyes, is because they're
Mhm.
moving even more than what like a natural breeze might do. They're all kind of as though something touched them as it moved past. But you still don't
Alright.
see anything, and the tricorder is still not showing anything.
All right. Yeah, Rozrin says, Minkler, I think I see it in that direction. Let's move forward. And he wants to move in that direction of where he saw
Okay.
the movement, the brushing, something going by. I'm getting
Okay.
very predator vibes from this, so it really is making me stressed out.
Well, we're going to pause on you for a second as you guys start to head deeper, and we're going to go back to Charlie and whoever is with Charlie. I don't know if Halada and Haskins had both gone with the power energy source. Now, so that's that energy signature that you're getting is very low. Like, it's not like, oh, there's clearly like a dilithium generator or something. I don't even know if that's a thing, but there's not like an active full battery or power source fueling this, but you are still getting that little energy signature. So, like I said, there is a panel that it looks like you might be able to open this door if you wanted to enter this structure, or you can just continue to look around the outside.
Does it look like the door's been opened recently?
So the only way that I would presume that you would be able to tell that is by, like, is there dirt buildup around it, things like that. No, it does not look like it's been opened recently. There is dirt built up around it. It was behind this vine work that you kind of had to pull apart and maybe cut through a little bit to see this door. So it doesn't look like anything has opened this door recently.
Did
Um,
Rozrin
good.
did Rozrin leave a security officer with us?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
just him
There
and
should be another
Minkler,
one back there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Minkler and somebody else. I don't think we have a name for him.
Am I
Commander-
with them or am I back at where like the little science station is?
I think you went to follow. Well, unless you wanted to. Do you want to follow the energy signature with them and look at this building here, or would you prefer to just stay and like
I
work
would
on all?
I would want to look at the energy.
Okay, yeah, then you're there. You're there. I have no problem with that.
Charlie is gonna. Am I the ranking officer here?
No.
No, Halada is the ranking
That's
officer.
right.
But yeah, after that, I think it's probably you and Keed have the same rank.
And Halada will defer to you if it's something that's strictly science, because she's got some idea, but that's your department, like literally. So
Halada's just been assigned to this group. She's kind of like the mom right now.
yes.
I think I can access the panel.
Let's do it.
Let's do that and have a security officer go in first after the air is cleared.
The whole time as Charlie pulls out his little like tools, he's just going to be rambling on about how Hur'q technology, actually Klingons based a lot of their technology off of Hur'q technology. That was after the invasions of their homeworld. So you're going to see a lot of crossover between all of their technology. By the way, it's insight plus science. Would that be its open?
Yeah, I'm gonna get you an insight. Actually, give me a control science.
Oh no.
Oh well, okay. I'll be
do
nice.
it. No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm a smarty pan.
You are.
But since I do have a focus on Klingon culture because I am a friend of the Klingons, so that'll help.
There you go.
All right, we got this, and that is a crit and a success.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah, I didn't even give you a difficulty, but you more than passed it. In fact, you earned a momentum on that, so you're back up to Cap.
Yay!
Which I forgot to change it, so that doesn't matter. So on the screen, everybody knows you guys are at 6. But yeah, so you and that door opens up. And when it opens up, initially it's just dark in there. And there is just kind of a musty, stale odor that comes out of it. Nothing of rot or anything like that. It's just a stale. It honestly doesn't smell like anybody's been in here either. Like, it's whatever's in here has been in here a long time, and there is no light that comes on. It's just the door opened, and it stays open when you step in. It does not close behind you.
Well, before anybody steps in, I'm going to scan it just to make sure that what's in there isn't going to kill us in the air.
Sure.
Make sure there's no microbes or anything.
Sure. Give me a control medicine. And give me I'm going to say a difficulty of 2. It's not a difficult check. Fantastic. So with that, you're not reading anything dangerous. Maybe some moss types and things like that, like natural. You're getting readings of what you would expect for like decomposition. Like what you're seeing makes you think that within this are something that is decomposed. And you do notice that like below, like at the floor. So the door opened and the door had a stony facade on it, but it obviously was powered by something. But the floor going into it is still dirt. There's no like artificial surface that has been installed as a floor in this area. And yeah, you're reading general. I'm not sciencey enough myself to know what would be there, but you know that there would be, if you were to guess what's in here, you would say remains of some type.
I'm not picking anything up on my tricorder for.
Yeah, nothing living, living, nothing moving.
It's just decay.
So, the security officer, I'm going to ask them to do a visual sweep, and then we'll follow through.
All right. So the security officer takes point, and he turns on a light, and he starts doing a slow scan. From what you can see over his shoulder as he makes egress, it is a large open area. You don't really see like necessarily any walls. You don't see any pillars or any structures like that. It's like an open, almost cave-like structure that this door has been built over. And as he pans his light around, he notes over his shoulder. He's like, "Captain, Commander, there are remains here, but they're not humanoid." And if you all make entry, he doesn't see any threats as you make entry, and you have your own lights. You start looking. You start seeing what look like insectoid shells, broken and falling apart with years. Like you can only assume that these are Hur'q remains. Some of them have big bulky shells that have been broken and falling apart. There are legs and arms and thoraxes and the things that you expect when you see, like, if your windowsill like mine gathers like old bugs that have met their end in our windowsill. It's stuff like that, and it's just everywhere. And you get the sense that this is like a burial mound. This is a place where a lot of dead were laid to rest.
So it doesn't look like a fight or a battle or anybody.
No, it looks like these bodies were brought here.
Okay. I wonder why there would still be power to a burial door.
You guess they wanted to protect.
That would be Keed speculating out loud.
If someone wanted to protect these corpses because they mattered to them, then they would put them behind a locked door. I'm going to assume that Charlie's got one of those little Federation hand lights. Is going to be kneeling down close to the bodies just to kind of like survey them, and it also has his tricorder out.
Okay.
Is anything really sticking out amongst them?
You
look
see,
like they're wearing like the same uniform, or
some of them are wearing what looks like insignias of some type of, like, perhaps a military service or some kind of ranking insignia. Some of them are not like and most of the fabrics and things have decayed with what has decayed of the rest of their bodies, but some seem to be more in like civilian outfits, or what would more nothing that seems like there's some that are clearly in like a uniform type of thing, and then others that are not in anything that resembles that, and they're varied and different. And it's like that nobody's been in here in a while, and these remnants are all like, if you do a scan, I won't even make you roll for it. You can tell that these bodies are closer to the age of the ruins at large. Like they're not fresh like you cannot find any traces of fresh bodies or fresh remains in here from anything newer than like 800 years, 900 years.
And there's no other doors or
you don't doors chambers? You do see other non-organic stuff, like you see parts of maybe a ship, but like little things that you think have been repurposed into like tools, or like it looks like it's things that they've been buried with. Like one of them looks like when it was laid here, it's got like a little artificial, but like metalish, I can't, like it's some type of alloy, there's the word I'm looking for, some type of alloy, but it almost looks maybe like a trowel or a spade. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't have any electronics to it that would show that it was used like as a tricorder or scanner or anything like that, but it is a handheld tool of some type.
Scientists are going to be thrilled to get this. I don't think we have a whole lot of data on Hur'q burial customs, and this seems to be a treasure trove of data for them.
This might not be the Hur'q.
Do we think the ribbons outside are like prayers? If this is essentially a burial mound?
That's what I was thinking, where this might be some other, like a crew that got stranded here, and then someone might have made offerings for the dead crewmen with the icons we found on the trees. Just based on what we know of the Hur'q, I mean, we don't know who these people are, but that's what this might be. But that still leaves one question: is like, who are they, and where are the survivors? I mean, because somebody buried all these crewmen, or working theory.
These might be Hur'q if they're as old as the ruins, or
And
almost as old. But there might be other cultures honoring them, as a guess.
I mean, would Keed know from Klingon legend if these bodies matched the Klingon stories of the Hur'q?
From what you have heard of them, and what I don't know if that's something that you've looked into a lot. There's nothing that would make you think that they aren't Hur'q. And I'm going to say at that time you do get a little ping back from Lieutenant Stern, and she says the Shenanigans has got back. Officer so and so that does the talkie has gotten back to me, and the language that is on this is based in a Hur'q dialect, but a little different. Like they couldn't make it all out, but they got a good idea.
So do they so they know what it was trying to say? Is it a warning? Is it a prayer? Is it
that one, they thought that just the letter structure looked like it was Hur'q. They think maybe it was a name, or but not sure if that is. Little is known about like Hur'q deities or anything like that, so wouldn't know if it was a name in memoriam, or a name in reverence, or a name just to tie a name. Like maybe the Hur'q do ornaments instead of like carving into the tree, you know what I mean? But they do believe that the language is Hur'q in origin.
Well, that's disturbing. That's not. I'm not saying that on the column. I'm saying that to Alana and Charlie.
Sure. Go ahead and give me another insight. I guess science. Again, this is more of an observation with your eyes, kind of thing as you look around with the lights. Everybody that's in the mound can do that for me.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty, just a difficulty 1 on this one, because now you're curious. Got a 2 from Charlie. Fantastic.
Yep.
0. I guess I'm staring at my tricorder too much.
A lot is off in her own head, apparently.
Okay. All right.
Earlier,
Well,
Charlie
Charlie got 2. He's like, I want to know what's happening here. So Charlie's looking around, and he kind of is moving deeper into this burial mound, and he's getting into the back, and he finds Charlie's, you're looking down, you actually start to see things that look more like potential weapons, but they have clearly laid here a very, very, very long time. And above them on an inscription, or above them on the wall, you actually see an inscription carved in. Unless and this is me out of character, unless there's a way that we can somehow get the, like, say that the Shenanigans is updating like the universal translator or something to recognize this new dialect, this language that you found. I don't know that you'll be able to get any kind of quick translation on it in the moment, but you definitely see it. And with your 2 successes, I can say that you immediately transmit an image of it to the Shenanigans to try to get a translation for it.
Can we get an engineering team working on that?
Yeah. Yeah, we can get engineering and communications on that to try to figure it out. But what you see at your feet, you see things that resemble, like a cursory scan would return results that would be some type of depowered energy weapons. Nothing that's firing a projectile or anything like that, but definitely energy weapons and things like that.
Oh, Charlie's gonna pick one up.
Okay. All right.
Alana is going to clear out of the like anywhere in front of Charlie.
There's no energy detected.
So yeah, you look at it and you try. It's got maybe like or a screen or some type of operating, like a control panel would have been on it, a small panel, and you kind of flip some switches and poke at it, and you get no response. It's just dusty, like a little poof of dust pops off of it and in your face, and but it looks like a phase rifle, essentially, but no power to it. Depending on how, yeah, I was gonna say depending on how.
Send it back.
Okay, I was gonna say depending on how interested you are in it, you may be able to repower it if you wanted to take it and try to fiddle with it. But right now, it is not. It poses no threat except as like a big club.
Oh no! Later on, Charlie's gonna try to turn this thing on.
Okay, so you take it back out of the mound with you.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So I'm going to leave you guys in the burial mound looking at old guns and words you can't read and dead bugs, and we're going to go back to Irax and Minkler as they stalk ever deeper into the forest on this unnamed planet. We should think of a name for this planet. I've been thinking about it. Every time we visit a place, we never name it. We should find a Star Trekky name for these places.
You don't want me to name anything. I'm the sort of person to name cats cat.
Rozrin would just be like, Death Planet. No, just
Death Planet 4. Is this the 4th Death Planet I've been on this trip?
Just call it like Quilmar 5.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So as you and Minkler stalk deeper into this forest, you notice, like, once you pass that initial like 20, 30 feet worth of these ornaments that were kind of waving like they'd been brushed, you get to a point where that doesn't continue anymore. Give me an insight security check to see if you can spot any more that are moving. Difficulty 2.
I got 1. So
1. Okay. So you do not see any more that are moving. And as far as like any other movement in the forest, you haven't heard footsteps. You haven't heard twigs breaking or anything like that. You're looking around and you kind of feel a breeze moving through. So now breeze is kind of it's clearly a different type of movement than what you witnessed earlier, but it's still now other things are starting to move, and it's getting harder for you to really lock on to where this might have gone. And your tricorder has been no help at all. Absolutely no help. No life signs. It's no thermal signatures.
We have a reroll from chat, and I also wonder if Minkler could aid.
Actually not a bad idea. I do not have stats for Minkler to my knowledge. Let me see.
Reroll.
Yeah, go and do the reroll, and just give me. We're gonna let Minkler use the ships. Let's see.
Oh, I will take double sevens, so I will take 2.
Go ahead and roll. Somebody roll a d20, and if you can get under, I'm gonna give the ship Minkler a 13 in this roll. So let's try that. Above a 13? Okay. Well, still you got 2 successes. That was great. So let's see here.
Rozrin's just like stock still, just like
I'm gonna find it.
We're
gonna find it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
This is true.
Talk to it first.
No, Halada's back at the mound. Chagrin's not here to be a diplomat with the unseen forest creature. This is Rozrin. Rozrin fires first.
It was unavoidable, Commander.
Yeah. So as you're looking around, you happen to notice your eye line, something draws your eyes upward. And you do notice movement in the trees, but and you start to realize that the ornaments going higher up into the tree, they're moving like something has brushed past them. And as you're looking, you definitely see something move in the tree, but you can't make out what it is because it just looked like the tree moved.
All right.
And it's not moving now. You saw it and it stopped. But you know now that you're looking up.
Yeah. Yeah, Rozrin looks over at Minkler and is like...
And he's looking and he's like, I don't know how comfortable I feel. It could be anywhere up there.
Well, one way to find out. Let's invite it to come down.
I thought you were going to climb the tree.
That was the second option. That is going to be the next step. If whatever it is does not respond, we are going up the tree.
Okay.
So just be aware of that's what's going to happen. So Rozrin is going to kind of look up, and because he kind of has a bead on kind of where it might be at this point, and he's pretty sure, just because of how close it is, probably pretty sure he at least knows they're there. So so he's just gonna look up and be like, "This is Lieutenant Rozrin Irax from the USS Shenanigans, Starfleet Federation. Please come down and identify yourself."
There's no audible response that you pick up on. You don't see any movement for a beat. Go ahead and give me another insight security roll. And remember, we do have 6 momentum on the table.
Yeah, I would like to take that extra die.
Okay. And remember, you can always buy more. It's just you pay the amount of momentum for whichever die it is. So another 2 will get you another die. Just a heads up. Or with threat.
That would be... Oh, no. 3 successes. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, perfect.
3, 13, 11, and 9, all under. So
nice. Yeah. So with that, you don't see anything. but you hear something. And you hear almost, you realize for a second, and you hadn't picked up on it, but you realize that you may have been hearing this for a moment. But it almost sounds like, so like in out of character in our world, when you're out in the woods, you hear all kinds of stuff. You hear birds, you hear insects. Well, this type of planet, there's very, very rarely a lot of animal life. And you had not been hearing any animal life at all through this up to this point. But you start hearing this kind of trill, not the species, but kind of like the sound, a chittering trill, and maybe some clicking, that sounds almost like wooden things touching on it, like clicking, almost like branches clacking or snapping and stuff like that. But that's the only thing you hear, and you realize you had not heard anything like that really until you went into this patch of woods, and you don't see anything, but you hear this sound.
Okay.
Minkler looks agitated. Now, Minkler is agitated a lot, so this isn't necessarily new. but
Yeah.
he doesn't like that he's not hearing a response that he considers like it's not a response that he can understand. I don't know of how familiar Minkler is with the universal translator not picking up on something. So if this is a response from a sentient thing, this bothers him a lot. But you have no proof that that's what it is. Again, you're still not showing any life signs.
Right. So at this point Rozrin will move. He'll try to give Minkler, like, I mean, he's not a jerk, so he's just gonna be like, like, it's okay to Minkler, just kind of give a comforting gesture, like,
Yeah.
cool, take a breath, remember your training, like, this is what we're here for.
You're a Starfleet officer, sir. Get it together.
Yes.
We're just having all the Starship Troopers references tonight, aren't we?
Yeah, and I don't see anything, but he's going to try to kind of head towards the direction of that clacking.
Okay.
And he's going to repeat himself and say, I'm Lieutenant Rozrin Irax, and kind of, it's above.
Yeah, it's definitely coming from above you. So, if you make, so would you like to make a move to like maybe navigate climbing the tree?
Yes, I think at this point we're going up the tree because Rozrin is like, look, we gotta get on this level. I may be able to see anything better up here. I'm like,
Sure.
Minkler, you stay down here.
Okay. So as you start to make your way, there are branches that these trees are not terrible for climbing. There are branches that you can kind of get your footing on. And as you start to approach, that clicking and that chittering kind of gets louder. And then there is an almighty rustle of leaves and branches, and you just see movement and you see the effects of something moving all the way through these trees, and it's just going away from you, but above ground. So like it just takes off through the treetops. And that clicking, clattering, chattering goes away.
All right. So I'm up in this tree.
So I'm up in this tree. That's how every great story starts.
So there I was, up in this tree on Death Planet 4.
Exactly.
Yeah, so at this point, he we're gonna tap the comm badge, and he's gonna say, Commander, we seem to have found some sort of life form. I tried to identify myself, but it took off through the trees. I had not been able to identify what it was. I heard it and saw the movement.
Did it head towards us or away?
I'm assuming away, unless.
Yeah, from where you are, I'm going to say that it actually was heading. It didn't head toward the burial area or the ruins. It almost headed like perpendicular away, so it didn't go deeper in the direction that you were initially moving, but it kind of went almost not perpendicular, parallel to the clearing, perpendicular to the path that you were taking. So it's not necessarily getting closer, it's just moving deeper into a different part of the woods.
Yeah. So he will, he will reiterate that, almost parallel to your position, et cetera, et cetera. I saw it
Sure.
bearing, whatever,
Yeah.
he'll give some coordinates.
116 Mark 7.
Yeah.
Did it pick up on the tricorders? I thought there were no life signs on this planet.
It was not picking up on the tricorder.
Well, if it's not heading closer to our investigation, just keep an eye out would be my recommendation.
Would you like me to try to track it or come back to the camp?
How fast did it move away from you? Do you think you have a chance of finding it?
Sounded like it was moving pretty fast according to Storyteller, so
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was clearly accustomed to moving through the trees. That is not something that you could that you would easily be able to like keep up that kind of speed. It was the movement was definitely seemed like it was in its element.
Yeah. Oh, it was up in these trees and moving much faster than I could through the trees. Seemed like it was very comfortable up here.
I would say come on and head back and let your security team know to keep an eye up as well.
Yes, just be aware it is up above in the branches.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so he'll come back down the tree. And they'll start heading back and he'll be keeping an eye out to see if, maybe it circled around and tried to, follow them again or watch them again or something like that on their way back.
Okay. Sounds good. So once the security duo returns to the area and y'all are still in the mound, Charlie did send that text back to the Shenanigans to try to get a translation on it or something. And then, so are you guys still poking around the mound, or have you come out to return to like the equipment in the colony proper?
I mean, there was nothing else to explore in that mound. I mean, once we hit
It was just a lot of dead carapaces and empty carapaces and broken shells and legs and arms and stuff. Clearly a place of the dead.
Keed can just make some post-mortem tricorder readings of the bodies just to have that data.
Okay, sounds good.
Charlie he's going to take the one rifle, but he's going to take a lot of pictures and then document the area for when we come back later.
Okay, sounds great. So as you guys leave, and you bring that energy weapon with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you guys return to kind of where the rest of the science technicians have set up this portable lab essentially with all the equipment, and the security team returns. Keed, your post-mortem stuff would show causes of death. There were a few that you believe the cause of death was likely some sort of injury, perhaps associated with like some of the older bodies that you found there definitely showed signs of maybe being injured in like a wreck or some sort of shipwreck type situation. Further, you have other bodies that seem to have just died of old age. It really runs the gamut. There are, like I said, there are the ones that seem to have been injured in some sort of cataclysmic event, and then there are the ones that just seem to have kind of died or some type of organ failure or whatever, more natural causes of death. You don't see anything that looks like with the exception of those that perhaps were injured in some type of massive shipwreck. You don't see anything that necessarily marks it as like battle damage or anything like that.
Right, like no rampant disease or famine or anything.
No, nothing like that. Just it honestly just looks like something happened that put this group of people there, and some died in that event, perhaps. Like if you were to make a theory, that's your theory, that some died in that event, others didn't, but died eventually.
Well, as soon as Rozrin gets back, he's going to be like, Commander, just, it really has me concerned that there's some sort of life form on this planet we can't track at all via our equipment.
That
Did it
is
make any kind of
definitely
noise, Lieutenant?
concerning. What did you say?
Sorry, did it make any noise, Lieutenant?
He'll try to describe it like, at first we were seeing it just moving through the trees, so we were hearing that, and then it was sort of a wooden kind of clacking sound. I couldn't tell whether it was in response to request for identification or some sort of just natural vocalization or
Perhaps a
anything like
warning.
that.
Mhm. If it's a life form that we're having difficulty tracking, we should probably all rendezvous at the same spot.
Yes, we're all together now except for like her security team that's
And the 2 pilots.
and the 2 pilots. So
Keed would like to recalibrate the tricorders to make it a little more sensitive for life forms.
Okay. Go ahead and give me a control science. I don't know if that'd be control science or control engineering. I'll say control science. And we'll say that you and looking at the carapaces and the remains that were in the burial mound, say you pick up on some sort of gene sequence or something that you might be able to incorporate and maybe track if there are any survivors that match this type of body type. Maybe you'd be able to locate those a little easier. They wouldn't normally register as like a humanoid species that you would like a life sign that you're used to looking for. It would be just alien enough that the tricorders were not prepared for that.
And do we have
Everybody's
the
okay.
ability
I'm
to?
going to buy another dice.
Oh yeah.
And then
Oh yeah, you got 5 right now.
Okay. And then my focus is in xenobiology, so that should help.
Yep, that'll help. So
what are we aiming for?
Give me a for that control science. Give me a difficulty 3 on that. Would you like to buy more die?
No, I think I'm going to try it with this.
Okay, sounds good.
With 3.
Could Charlie help him if it's?
Yeah, if anybody would like to assist, that would be fantastic.
I've got Brit.
No. Charlie's doing his best.
Actually, I got 4 successes.
Oh, well, you're fine.
Oh, nice.
And
Charlie's playing with his new rifle, and you're just Superman. So,
Well, it is xenobiology. It's something that I studied for extensively.
if we
To
can
help kill things, but that's neither here nor there.
if the scanners are going to be able to pick them up now, is there the ability to set up like a sensor array to let us know if they get close?
Sure, like a almost like a perimeter type thing that would ping if something approached.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I am going to say about this time. Go ahead, everybody. Give me another insight science for an observation roll. Listening and eyesight. Difficulty 1.
0.
Yeah, I'm busy looking at it. I'm busy scanning.
Rozrin, you can use insight security for yours.
Good. Then I got.
Actually, anybody could use insight security if that's a better metric for them. 2.
Yep.
2? So big nose on Charlie. The science bros have no successes. Okay. Okay.
They're distracted by their projects.
And
Sounds
nothing
good.
I have applies.
Okay, that's fine. So with those 2 successes between or 4 successes between the both of you, right about that time your comm badge chirps, and it's Victra, and she's like, Commander, we have friends out here. And at that time you look up and you start to hear the chittering and the clicking. you hear something that is, and Rozrin kind of,
that's it.
points, is like, hey, that's the noise. And from the forest, kind of in the direction where Rozrin came from, but from a couple places throughout, almost like you're surrounded, but not necessarily like you're surrounded. But these creatures come out of the forest, and the one that catches your eye the most seems to be the one that is approaching, almost at point. And it is about 6.5 feet tall. It is very slender. It is very very insect-like in its look. It has a plumage coming off of all of its body, but primarily its head and like its upper arms and its joints that looks almost like white flowers with pink centers on them, like huge flower petals. And it has these plumages. That's the one that catches your eye because it's kind of stunningly beautiful and what it looks like. It, if you're familiar with the orchid mantis, it's along that lines, except it's just got a whole head of like this plumage of these flower petal looking array, this decoration on it, and all over its body. Another one looks almost like is almost just green with some stockier bits. The body is almost looks like a walking, moving corn stalk kind of look. You have another one that looks like the trees. You can, now that they're separating themselves from the foliage and the forest, as they approach, you can kind of make out features. You can tell where the head is on the one with the tree, but it's got, its plumage looks more like branches, and you can see, Rozrin, how you would have missed it in the trees. Like you were probably staring right at it and had no grasp that it was there. And as they approach, now is a really good time to take a break, and we will come back and see how this goes in about 10 minutes. But we thank you all for sticking with us through the first half. I hope you guys your interest is piqued. I hope my crew's interest is piqued in what's going on this planet.
Good thing Rozrin didn't shoot anything.
Yeah.
Use
True.
this empty gun I've got.
Yes, Charlie's got this, holding this rifle. But yeah, so this is Hur'q and Harass. We really appreciate y'all for being here. Stick around with us for a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back with more action. You can, I know I haven't been watching the chat very much, but I see that we've had some gifted subs come in. We really appreciate that. Shawn, we know that you're the sub gifter usually. Yeah, and then
went to my wife.
Yeah, hey, she needs to be subscribed. But as it is, we so yeah, you can sub to us, you can tip, you can get Lieutenant Liv Stern, one of the pilots, is actually an NPC that was named and statted out by a viewer. That is something that you can do for a small donation. I'm going to drop. No, sorry, I accidentally went to the outro. Tips. You can tip or use bits to get NPCs that you have either statted out or named or whatever. You can be a part of the show and interact with it that way. But yeah, like, subscribe. There's a little follow thing if you want to keep up with our announcements. But yeah, we'll be back in 10 minutes. So fill up and drop off, and we'll see you here in just a few. Hello, and thank you for sticking around through the break. It's great to see you. We are back here with the Voyages of, our weekly Star Trek adventure show, documenting the voyages of the USS Shenanigans as we explore the Gamma Quadrant. And you can follow us on all the social media. Social media links should drop into the chat throughout the night. We can trigger some of those, but my guy that's running the board is looking at his phone right now. So he just looked up at me and is like, "What am I doing?" But yeah, we have a
Discord. Help these things.
Yeah, we have a Discord. You can go to facebook.com/RookandRasp. You can go to twitter.com/RookandRasp. You can go to youtube.com/c/RookandRasp, and you can see all of our old videos and our old VODs. If this is your first episode with us, we thank you for being here, and I hope that you're enjoying what you're watching. Thank you, man behind the screen, for dropping those in chat for me. But yeah, if you haven't gotten to see our previous episodes, we have 9 other episodes before this one that you could go check out on our YouTube channel. And so many other shows. We have a Call of Cthulhu show on Thursday night. We're hoping to be able to play Call of Cthulhu this Thursday night. We have a season that we're trying to wrap up, and just health and sickness and schedules and conflicts have prevented us from wrapping up that show, but we are looking to hopefully do that this week and next week. Beyond that, we had a Ninja show that is currently on hiatus, but will be coming back later this year. Beginning after, I think in late September, we have Fragged Empire coming on Thursday nights. It'll be a 4-week mini-series with my husband John Thompson as the host of that, and we have a great cast lined up for that. That'll be good. It's going to be kind of like, if you imagine like an Expanse, and I don't know, what was that other show, Dark Matter, that used to be on Sci-Fi Channel. Kind of a sci-fi in the vein of that, a little grittier, some more intrigue, alliances, factions, and warring factions and things like that in a spacefaring future. After that, we also have replacing this show when our half-season finale starts is next week. Like I said, on, let's see, that is September 6th, I believe. September 6th, Labor Day, will be the season finale, mid-season finale of this show, this Star Trek show. We will have that episode. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's Lady Somebody and the Pirate Ship, I think is what it's called. I could have that wrong. I'll look that. We'll give that to you before the end of the show. But it's going to be fun. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be a great mid-season finale. Again, Rob will be in the chair for that. And some of the people on screen right now will be in that episode, so that'll be great. This show will then be replaced by, after a couple of weeks, I think it's 4 weeks off, will be replaced by X-Crawl, which is a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition setting that takes place in like a fantasy version of our own world, and where dungeon crawling is an extreme sport. So if that sounds interesting to you, which it sounds pretty cool to me, it's going to be a lot of fun. Tune in for that. Again, same time slot, Monday nights at 7 p.m.
It's a pretty awesome game.
Yeah, so it comes from, I believe, Goodman Games is the publisher of that, but it's going to be a good time. Matt will be running that one. He's run many of the shows on Star Trek, so that'll be his next adventure. And, we asked that you come out for that. In between this show and that show starting, we will air a 2-week special event of a Star Trek game that we aired in 2020 called To the Stars, which is a kind of an intrigue investigation Star Trek story. So that'll be for 2 weeks. And then as we get closer to Halloween, we're going to drop some Call of Cthulhu Halloween game on you. And we're going to do a replay of our 2-episode Halloween special from 2020. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, that's all that's going to be airing here in the up and coming. I think that's everything. So let's get back to our adventure. As we said in the first half, we are on a Class L planet where an away team had discovered what looked to be ruins of a former Hur'q colony. Our teams have gone down there to further explore these possible ruins and found what looked to be maybe a burial mound. And there were some movement in the trees. We weren't reading any life signs, but right before the break, a group of beings came out from the forest, and they seem to be approaching our group. And so let's get back to it. As you see, team, as you see these folks coming out of the forest, they are just approaching. They don't seem to have weapons. They are not rushing. They are just moving towards you. Where are you? What are you seeing? How are you feeling about this?
So for those of us that
Charlie?
didn't make that notice roll, do we finally notice these things walking up on us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Charlie is going to nervously close his tricorder, but he's not making any threatening action.
Okay.
I'm going to start scanning to see if there's genetic similarities between them and what's in the tomb.
So I will tell you, just because you had rolled on this before and you were making those modifications to the tricorder, and you guys were setting up a sensor array, it's pinging.
Okay.
It is seeing that there is something here. So the changes that you made did whatever that gene sequence is that you were picking up from the remains in the mound are found in these creatures. And the one with the orchid like plume and headdress, and it's I call it a headdress, but it is attached to them. It is their physiology. But that is the one that steps forward the farthest, and they hold out their forelimbs, not in a threatening way, almost just kind of like holding out if they had palms up. And yeah, just like that. Sorry, I have to keep one button on my push to talk, so I only have one arm to gesticulate with. but yeah, and they are. You can see their mandibles moving, but you're not getting much on the as far as the language goes. Again, it's just the sounds that you're hearing, the clicking and the chittering.
Can we please get recordings on that and start streaming them to the ship to try and get translation as quickly as possible?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'll step forward and mirror the gesture and
Okay.
introduce myself. But like right now, we probably aren't going to be able to communicate, but I'll still
Sure.
make the effort.
You do hear coming through on your comms, Victra paps back in and she's like, we have guests that are here, but they don't seem to be threatening, Commander, but I'm getting messages from the ship and I'm going to start beaming them to you. They have a translation for the image that Charlie sent back, and they are working on the universal translator. If you guys, let's see, you're currently sitting at 5 momentum. If you're willing to spend 2, we can move in this universal translator.
Create an advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So I'm going to spend 2 of those because you guys have been for when you roll good, you roll good. It's just the 2 of y'all that aren't rolling. Oh, did we lose you, Sarah? Are you still with us?
It's a little frozy, a little robotic.
That's fine. Okay, I think we're good now. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so as the clicking is coming in, it starts to change, and you start to get words, and you make out. Sorry, I moved my dice tray. You make out the name Kitaka, or you make out the word Kitaka, and you're not sure, but the one with the plume is gesturing at themselves as they go on, and yeah, Kitaka and hello, and little bits and pieces are coming through, and as you go, you hear, I'm sorry, you get the picture that Charlie had sent, and Charlie, you get that image that comes straight to your tricorder. But you did shut your tricorder, but I don't know if it makes a beep or something to let you know. And Victor did say that she was sending it to you.
I think it would, so I would open it again.
Okay, you open it, and they had a hard time translating it, but what they translated essentially came to the translation of, here we lay down our arms, they are unneeded. And again, the orchid creature steps forward, and she repeats herself. My name is Kitaka. Welcome to our home. What brings you to our sacred lands?
No.
Ooh.
I'm just here to defile your temples. I mean, you know me.
I am Commander Halata with the Federation. We were unaware the planet was inhabited, and we were doing some research into what we thought were ruins. I'm very sorry if we have trespassed.
Well, you are correct. These are ruins. We do consider them sacred. These are the resting places of our ancestors. I see that you have found, and they look at Charlie holding the energy weapon. You have found the implements of war.
Yes, we thought that it was a abandoned burial site, and we were curious about the technology that was there. But we can return this, and I will give it to you right now. And I'm humble and I apologize for desecrating your sacred site.
And if she could smile, you'd think that she would be. Her eyes kind of have a twinkle, and then they're the very large, kind of fragmented, faceted eyes. And she says, "You may look at it. We do not need those, and have not ever in my lifetime." And there is the one that looks like a tree, the one that's looking more tree-like that you presume, Rozrin, that maybe you interacted with earlier.
Yeah.
Uh,
That was Rosrin's guess too. Like,
yeah,
oh, there you are.
yeah.
There you
He's,
are.
he steps forward and he says very quietly, you can just make it out, and it's like, those weapons do not belong to them. They are our people's. And Kataka kind of raises a hand to soothe him and says, Chichitika, please, it is okay. No one has been here in many years, and those weapons are no longer usable. If they wish to look at them, they are not defiling our dead. They are not our ancestors. Our ancestors carried them.
You know, all the same, I think I would feel more comfortable returning this to you.
Uh, Chititika looks at you and says, agreed, and may I escort you? And he just kind of points toward the mound, almost like a please after you.
Rozrin?
Charlie's gonna go and kind of hope that this isn't gonna like end in a trap. But yeah, Charlie's gonna very politely and reverently carry the rifle all the way back to the mound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
Rozrin
I'm
will
absolutely
actually
sending
look
Rozrin.
at
Okay,
Rozrin will like
that's
look
fine.
at Commander Halata and then like look at like I'm gonna I'll assist on
Yeah,
that
sure.
just in case. Because Rozrin gets, similar like I am protective personnel vibes from that one. Like,
Sure.
so just keep an eye on that. So yeah, Roger will follow. He says, I will be happy to assist in that, and kind of goes to fall in step with Charlie to go back
Okay.
to the mound.
Chichitika, for what it's worth, does not seem bothered that you're joining them. Continues to walk. And Kitaka, she also does not seem too fussed by it. The one that looks almost like a walking, breathing cornstalk, um, he keeps his distance, but she says, "This is my friend Tok Tok. He is one of our primary farmers, and we just wanted to greet you to our lands. I see that you have brought equipment, and we truly do mean you no harm. We have not interacted with other life forms in many life cycles."
Yes, it is surprising to find you here. How many generations has it been?
Um, Our earliest record on this planet is about 1,500 years. So we've been here for very long. I can see from your equipment that you are very interested in these ruins. We can tell you more about them, but we would love to do so more in our in our village as opposed to necessarily staying on the sacred grounds. These lands are holy to us, but I will happily talk to you about whatever you would like to know.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
And so, with that, um, her group leads you through the woods a bit, going somewhat the way that Rozrin and Minkler had gone earlier. After Charlie deposits the weapon and Chichika and Rozrin and Charlie come back, they all lead you they go through the trees a little bit, and there is another area still heavily forested. There's a nice canopy above it, which explains why you didn't see much of it from the air. But there are larger mounds that look far fresher, more active, and there are above ground kind of hollowed out domes where there are campfires cooking and things like that, and there are plants, and it is a lively village. You see other of these types, all manner of almost floral patterns to their can't I the word
Carapace?
plumage is what I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Carapace?
Yeah, on their carapace, and they have protrusions and things that look again like flower petals or leaves and things like that. And they have like a out from the canopy of trees. They even show you they have like farmlands where they grow crops and things like this. And as Kataka is talking with you, she says, "We have been here very long. Our ancestors crashed their space vessel crashed here, and it was lost with them. And we do not have this planet does not offer us anything. Did not offer them any type of materials to reclaim that vessel or any of its flight capabilities, and they settled here." And they do not use the word Hur'q. You don't quite understand the word that they use, and the universal translator sticks with it. It just, but we're gonna. What you hear is something similar to Tako, is what they seem to refer to their ancestors, and yeah, she explains they were a warfaring people, but when they were here and they could not leave and they were abandoned here, there was no one to fight, and many of them died. Sickness prevailed among them. They needed a nutrient that they could not get. The legends tell us, and as some broke free and adapted to not getting that, over the years, over the centuries, we have grown to not need it. And they laid down their weapons several centuries ago because there was no enemy besides themselves. And once it became clear that it was either kill each other or find a way to live peaceably, they did so.
Charlie's just writing all this down.
Fantastic.
So you say your species lacked a nutrient, and that is what caused a lot of the deaths?
There was a let's see, there was a type of I suppose fungus is the word that they needed to that they would constantly come looking for to survive. They needed it to survive, and it when they crash landed here, they had no access to that any longer. It is not native to this planet, and it is not one that they produce naturally. Now, Star Trek lore, possibly apocryphal Star Trek lore, the Hur'q did have a similar need as the Jem'Hadar did to the precursor of Ketracel White. For those of you that don't know, the Jem'Hadar were kind of bred in captivity and used as kind of like the strong right arm of the Dominion during the Dominion War, and they were made to rely on this Ketracel White. And if they didn't get it, it caused them a lot of pain and they died. And so, being that the Dominion were the only people that could give it to them, they were their loyal servants and kind of their military. And they were brutal warriors. And again, I believe it's apocryphal lore, but the Dominion did something similar with the Hur'q a long time ago. And used a precursor to Ketracel White to remove them from the places where the Hur'q were prevalent, and used it. They would kind of drop little beacons of this nutrient or fungus onto planets and essentially send the Hur'q in to just raise entire worlds. So it was used against them in much the same way as the Ketracel White is used against the Jem'Hadar. So all that to say, what Kitaka is telling you is kind of is essentially that they needed this nutrient, they did not have it, but they were able to adapt to life without it on this planet. But some of them were able to adapt easier than others. Some died from the crash, some died from lack of the fungus, and then others were able to adapt and survive, and they to some degree repopulated this area. But it is still a fairly small colony. We're talking maybe a few hundred current citizens here.
The leader's
But
name is Takaka.
Kitaka.
Kitaka. I'm gonna. Have you been using her when you refer to Takaka?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Kitaka has identified herself in a feminine pronoun kind of way. Other.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm going to approach her, introduce myself. Takata, hi, my name is Keed Haskins. I'm the Chief Medical Officer. I'm curious, when you said you adapted the flowers that are growing out of you, is that decoration or is that part of you?
This is part of me. We have adapted also to the environment to provide a type of essentially environmental camouflage. Not that we've necessarily needed it, but there are different families that seem to have evolved these effects or these traits. So
why the ship didn't pick up life signs; it picked up plants.
Very possibly.
That's yeah. Sorry, Keed was like trying to answer what's been
talking outside.
Yeah, and I'm gonna look at Charlie and be like, say, hey, so could that be why our sensors didn't pick them up? It registered as registered them as plants rather than life forms.
It's possible, and considering that with their lack of technology, our sensors may have just not have picked them up at all.
That's another good question. If we swept for any energy signatures here.
You have not yet, but if you'd like to, again, let's get some control science or energy science, or energy science, insight science.
Just real quick. So Charlie is beginning to put together a theory. It plays in some of my talents.
Okay.
That these the species we're encountering now had to essentially adjust and evolve without the fungus, so that these may have been originally the Hur'q, who survived without the fungus, and they evolved in a different direction. And for people at home, it's I literally have a town called Testing a Theory, where I pretty much make like a declaration and then see if I'm correct or wrong. So that's why
Sounds.
my character occasionally has to say weird things out loud.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, go for it.
All right, that is 2 successes. Come
Okay.
on, dice, we're back in the game.
When you address your theory out loud, Kitaka looks very interested. She says, I do not know this word Hur'q that you use, but that very well that sounds like our history. Perhaps the Hur'q you mentioned are the T'ko, our ancestors. That is who is buried at the barrow which you found, where we found you. And then, who scanned for energy signatures?
I can, since I brought it up. I mean,
Yep, that works.
we're going for insight science.
Yeah.
Ooh, 2 successes.
Okay, fantastic. It was. I should have told you the difficulty. It was a difficulty 1. The only signatures that you are finding in this, you're not finding any in the immediate area. They do not seem to be using any type of spacefaring energy sources, which Kitaka, if she picks up on what you're doing, you get the impression, both all of you, that Kitaka seems to have kind of a science mind, but she also seems to be their primary speaker, almost kind of their community leader. They don't have like a mayor or something like that, but she does seem to be the one that everyone kind of defers to. And Kitaka is very interested in this, and as she kind of shows you around and shows you, she takes you to where she conducts most of her day-to-day areas. We would call it an office in our parlance, but it's more just, again, a above ground dirt mound that has some objects in it, some plants and some you can see paper, and it's sparsely furnished. She doesn't need a whole lot. Because again, she's like a 6-foot tall praying mantis with flower petals coming out of her body. She's quite comfortable. They don't need chairs like we would. So again, there's no real sitting place for any of you, but she kind of takes you into this, and she has some papers and things, and she says, well, what the energy signature, that the energy that you are looking for, we do not use anything like that. Like I said, the ship that our ancestors arrived on was lost in the water near where you found the colony. The word water, she says, it is not a drinkable resource. It is not something that we can use. It's a chemical makeup that is not compatible for us. We have found water at other places, but we cannot drink the water in that pool. And she's like, but the ship that they came on is still under there as far as we know. But again, we cannot, it is not safe for us to access.
Why is it not safe for you to access?
We have just always been told that we cannot drink the water, and so we just avoid interacting with it. We collect most of our water from rain, and there are other sources of water that we can use, but not that one.
Could be that the ship's engines poisoned it.
And that could be, they have not, it's one of the, you get the impression from the way that she speaks about it, it's something that is definitely, it's almost like lore and oral tradition that this is not, we don't do this thing.
It feels like it's almost like taboo, like, don't cross into the...
Yeah, like in the village, don't go near the woods, kind of thing. There's a monster or whatever it is. But, so as that's going on, so she kind of talks about that, and she says the only energy our ancestors built the burial mound and put the door on it, and once that battery closes, or once that whatever is powering it finally reaches its end of life, it will also power down. I misspoke when I said you don't pick up an energy source in the area. You pick up another faint one somewhere in the village, but you're not really sure what it is. Again, it's not like a big thing like an engine or something like that, but there is a power source in the village.
All right, I'll pass that information along to the group. That, Commander Halana, I am picking up another trace energy signal somewhere within this village, but it's nothing large. I don't think it's something that we should be concerned with, but if we want to look into it, we can.
Where do you show this coming from? I would like, may I see?
Yeah, I'll hold the tricorder so she can see it and kind of, arrow in
and
where's that.
She looks at it and she's clearly unsure of how to interact with this device. But she says, I believe that is in our temple. I can show you the home of the ancestors.
If it's not something, that would be great. As long as it's not something that is going to.
It is not. It is holy to us as it is our worship place, but it is not somewhere that you have to understand. We don't particularly worship anything. Worship is a weird word. It's hard to explain. You don't know if the universal translator is confused or if she's confused.
It's a place you
it's
go
almost
to
like
be
you would
reverent.
revere.
Yes, it is a place of reverence. And she says, please come with me. And she leads you out and she leads you down a little ways. And you can see children playing. And, life is going on. You actually smell food that smells pretty good. You're kind of surprised. But no one has showed any threat or anything to you. This is... Rozrin probably feels like it's too good to be true, but right now nothing is tripping any sensors. You're just among this people, and she takes you down a few buildings, and you see a building that does stand a little taller than the rest, has a opening at the top where the light from the sun can shine down into it, and it is more open air, has almost some windows and things like that. It is all above ground. There are no burrows underneath it that you can see. And she takes you in, and there are some areas, just a big, large, open area where you can see that some of the Tuco may come and spend time in quiet. And there is, up on kind of like a raised area at the back, there is an alcove. And in that alcove, you see something that looks completely out of place in this area. And it is definitely a piece of technology that looks kind of familiar to you. And as you come in, she kind of motions to it, and she says, "This is the home of our ancestors." And she repeats that phrase. And would anybody like to make a scan of the device that is up there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
Well-
Charlie's making a scan. That give me either an insight or a control science on that. Difficulty 2.
And then Charlie is.
And we do still have 3 momentum, by the way.
Would a focus in anthropology work for this?
Yes, sure. Why not?
Okay. All right, here we go.
Did anybody else want to scan or assist?
I'll assist. So.
Okay. And we do have a momentum from chat, I see.
Thank you, Chat.
Yeah, that didn't help.
We
got another one, it looks like.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Chat.
Is someone rolling those, or?
No, they were just giving us some extra momentum. So our momentum is padded now. That was a difficulty 2. You got 2, correct? Okay,
Yep.
So we are currently sitting at 5 momentum on the table. And with those 2 successes, you start to scan it, and you believe pretty certainly that this is a cryo chamber, like a cryostasis chamber.
Oh.
And it has a very low power signature, but it is a steady. It's a steady power signature. So you do believe that it is currently still in operation.
Reed, are you are these? I show my tricorder. Is this what I think this is?
Look over. You mean a cryo chamber?
It does look like it could be a cryo chamber. And then I look over at Halada, and I kind of walk over and show the tricorder. Right, it looks like it's functional.
Okay.
And Kataka at this time is just kind of she seems to have taken this moment to be reverent, and she has no issues with you guys scanning the device, and if you go up to it and anything like that, she's showing you her culture.
She'd probably change her mind really quickly if I went up and started pushing buttons.
Well, before we push buttons,
Probably,
Commander,
yes.
do you mind if I scan for life signs in the cryo chamber?
Yeah, and see if the cryo chamber has any readouts or anything that you can read as well.
And I am going to definitely scan for Hur'q, because I think that's what's in there.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy the momentum.
So you're gonna use, so you buy one die for that. Yeah. Fantastic. Just because of the situation, I am going to spend 2 threat, and I'm going to reduce the complication range to where 19 is now also a complication. But is anyone assisting on that, or is this just Keed?
I can assist.
Yeah, sure. We're looking, again, this is insight science or control science, whichever works best for you. A difficulty of 2 or 3. I'm sorry, 3.
Can I do medicine since I'm scanning for life?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool.
Can I use, because we know this is based off like Hur'q, so we're going to find a Hur'q inside. Can I use my testing a theory to reroll my die if I fail?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea that I asked for that, because
nice.
I'm assuming that I can apply my xenobiology to this.
Sure.
It's all on you, man.
Yeah, I gotta take a picture of this. I rolled a 1, a 4, and a 3. And that's all under 5 on my medicine.
I trust you. So that's 6 successes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
take a picture of that. That's just awesome.
Yeah, just remember. Yeah. So you scan and you look. I see Charlie kind of looking at the readouts. Keed's up there working next to him. Kataka looks a little interested, and she's like, we do not understand the technology of the ancestors. And she kind of looks, and I'm not going to say she looks concerned. She's interested, but also a little cautious. None of their people even get really that close to the altar, as it were.
What is the lore surrounding that object?
That is the we call it the home of the ancestors. And as she starts to speak, Keed, your readouts start to show little life signs, and it's multiple life signs. And Charlie, even though you got 0, you kind of look into the glass front of it, and you see small little, almost like spherical or rounded off shapes. And she says, these came with the ancestors. These are their descendants. And Keed, you realize that this is a cryostasis chamber full of Hur'q eggs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a security hazard to Rozrin.
We are 1,000% not waking these up, right?
No, I'm not. No,
but we're not destroying them. Charlie won't. Yeah.
No.
Clarifying.
Yeah, but if they. I mean, do we know? Can we tell enough from this technology that if the cryo chamber ever fails, will the eggs hatch, or will that take the eggs out with them? Because that could pose a threat to these people as well.
It is hard to tell. The eggs are still viable, as far as you can tell. That the creatures inside them the embryos, or whatever the proper term is for that, are alive and probably on the verge of hatch, but they were put into stasis when they landed on the planet, or as the ship went down, even maybe, and in a last ditch effort um, to preserve their lives, and with the intent possibly to awake them at some point. What you do know is that, or what you can infer from the situation, is very likely these Hur'q would have that same dependency on that fungus that the other ones did, and would potentially be as aggressive as the Hur'q of lore, as opposed to the gentle Tako.
That's my worry. Not that they're going to get loose on the galaxy, but they're going to, if they ever hatch, they would just ravage this colony.
How long do you think the power supply on that will last?
Charlie's gonna get up, take more scans. He's not gonna push any buttons, but is there like a visible console? I'm trying to answer the question of how long it'll last.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you want to go ahead and give me an insight science roll on that, we'll just call it a difficulty 2, because Keed has already interacted with it some. You've interacted with it some. You recognize what it is. You, with your background in science and a little engineering, you can tell where these things are. So it's a lower difficulty to scan for that battery.
And I got to use my reroll because with
Again,
my theory into practice, and I got a crit and a success, so 3 successes.
Fantastic. You see that the battery life on, or whatever this power source is, it has probably it does not look nearly as depleted as you might have expected, because it is just using a very low percentage of its power to keep this maintained. It doesn't look like something that's going to go offline anytime soon. Maybe in another 50 years, it would be a worry.
I would say this has about 50 years of life, or 50 years worth of energy left in it, before it would approach critical systems failure.
And the only guess that you would have is, to return to your question, Keed, of whether or not it's kind of unknown what would happen if the eggs were left in this chamber and the power went offline. They would either wake up and then potentially suffocate and die inside a closed, sealed off cryo chamber if they could not get it open, or the eggs would not hatch. But I can believe that as Starfleet officers with some awareness of the Hur'q, you would keep the possibility of it hatching as always probably something to prepare for.
Right. And I mean, have we been subtle about this, or has Kalata?
No, I've not been being subtle, because I intend to talk to
Kitaka.
That's what I was trying to think.
Kitaka.
I agree with that point right there, because maybe just letting them know what's going on would.
Yeah, Kitaka consents. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna try to Commander Halata. Right, they revere their ancestors. If they know that this is full of unhatched eggs, they may want to release them.
It sounds like they're already aware of that, based on the legends they were just telling, that I was just being told. So,
whatever you want.
I can't.
No, sorry. I was gonna say, I'll follow your lead. So whatever you want to do, if you want to give them full disclosure, then I support it.
And I will say that at this time, Kitaka has been watching you all with of course that cautious interest, and when you look at her face, you're still learning how to interpret any kind of expression cues from her, but you do think that and then there's a tone in her voice that also shows that she is picking up on your concerns. And again, nobody has really said the Hur'q were this vicious, aggressive species that almost killed, the Klingon people, almost completely eradicated them. Nothing like that has been said. So she knows that they were warfaring, and that they were aggressive, but she doesn't understand the extent of what that means. But she's picking up that there is considerable concern, and this is to them a historical artifact that is very important to their culture. And she's is there something wrong?
There's worry. This artifact has many eggs in it from the species that you are descended from, which we believe are the Hur'q. And their history in the wider universe is terrifying. They were not just warlike, they were almost obsessed and nearly committed genocide, at least once. We don't really want to return that favor. We thought that they were already extinct, but there's no reason to put that into practice. However, the power supply on this, when it fails, may do that anyway, or they may hatch. And the concern with them hatching is your people are peaceful. You would very likely, if they survived not being able to get the sustenance that your people lacked at the beginning, would end up subjugated or killed, and then they would be trying to get back out into the wider universe.
This is. We did not know that it had little ones on it.
Yes.
This is. The others will have to know.
Of course.
Um,
This is not a decision we would want to make without input from your people.
I thank you, Halata. If our ancestors were as fearsome as it sounds they were, and there is a threat to our way of life, I don't know how to proceed. I what do we do? I have to talk to the others. I must call a meeting of the elders.
And you have time. The thing that we were discussing is that battery is good for about another 50 years. So there's time to make consideration, and even if the consideration is keeping them where they are, I'm sure we can try to find a way to replenish that power.
And I'm sure we can send along any information about the work if you're curious about any of that to determine and know the history that we are referring to.
And it's at this point that Charlie's probably going to raise his hand and be like, may I request like a private discussion with my fellow officers over here?
Yep.
Oh, wait.
Please, I will go and gather the other elders, and maybe we can meet. And I would love to learn about this Hur'q that you speak of, and find out if. Well, clearly they were the Tako, and our ancestors. I will return in some time. Please take your time, but I would ask that you do not interfere with the device until my people understand.
Of course.
Perhaps we should even vacate the reverence area to have our meeting.
And that
Out of
Sure.
respect.
She leaves you if you guys would like to stay in there to talk or move outside. Either way, there are a lot more people outside than there. Obviously, the inside was empty, so it is a little bit more private there. But
Somewhere private.
Yep.
Just talking about Federation stuff.
Yep.
As I look over at the Tico, just procedures stuff. Prime Directive.
She
What-
leaves you. You are alone. You are alone with your other
Yeah.
officers.
Okay, so did we just inform this very peaceful species that not only are they descended from genocidal warlords, but that we have a whole cache of baby genocidal warlords? And it seems like based on their culture, they don't like children to suffer or to remain in stasis. So I'm getting the feeling that they want to wake up the Hur'q, and I don't know exactly what we're supposed to do to proceed because it feels like we definitely just interfered with the development of a pre-warp civilization, and I just want to get that out there. And
It's definitely a slippery slope because, I mean, technically they're not pre-warp. They're descended from pre-warp. I mean, they're descended from a warp.
A warp capable society, yeah.
But for all intents
yeah,
and purposes, they're brand new.
that's true. And then we just told them, hey, here are your ancestors, and they were very aggressive. And
And there's the
I'm just saying,
potential that
I
they're
don't
going
know
to
what
wake up in
impact.
50 years and kill you all. That's something they need to know.
That's true. I'm just saying, they've developed a very peaceful society, and we're telling them that they should feel bad because their ancestors were awful.
I'm not telling them that at all, and I
No.
definitely hope that's not the message they're taking away.
Yeah.
I'm
We're just
hopeful
telling them
too.
their history, the history, you know.
Like, I even tried to make it clear that I'm talking about their ancestors and not them. They're descended from these people, not these people.
Just making
Because
sure.
And plus there is the consideration of what leaving this be, just from a safety and perspective of what leaving them here to potentially resume their activities could do for the rest of the other civilizations and planets around here if the Hur'q were to return and be much the same as they were.
Well, they won't be able to leave the planet. I mean, if the ship that crashed is capable of leaving, their parents would have left.
yeah, that's
So I mean, there is no danger to, I believe, to the galaxy at large if they wake them up. I'm just concerned that if they wake them up, the Hur'q will just eradicate this peaceful culture that seems so vastly different than what I grew up on hearing Klingon stories of.
right.
Was there not that small energy signal at their sacred lands as well? Did we determine what that was?
It's just powering
Um,
that door.
No.
It was just powering the door and keeping it sealed.
Oh, the door. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, to absolutely their potentially warp capable ship is out in that body of water near the burial lands. I think y'all mentioned that, but just to confirm, it is potentially out there. And it could be what's making the water unsafe for them as a people.
Well, apparently, it's not capable of flight anymore. Otherwise, they would have left.
Or they couldn't
Yeah,
get
you would
out.
you would certainly think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do we investigate their ship?
So we definitely want to do that. My other concern, and the other reason that I wanted to talk to them about this, is if we make a report and all of a sudden this becomes a planet other people are coming to investigate, and then in 50 years' time, that thing breaks and everything hatches. There's a lot of potential for things to go sideways here, and I want them to know what's coming and help if we can.
The Cardassians get wind of this and they come and steal unhatched Hur'q eggs.
Oh yeah,
They
that's
could
the last thing we need.
they could potentially weaponize them.
You do have just as a reminder, if at all you want to, you do have contact with the ship at any time if you need it. The captain is obviously not. The ship is not aware of necessarily everything that's going on, except that there's been some language that you found that matches what they thought already. So
Perhaps it
Yeah.
is time to
That would be a
inform
good
the
time to
ship.
check in then, since we have concerns about me violating the Prime Directive.
that's all right.
Better
Everybody
that-
violates the Prime Directive at least once.
I
It's a rite
mean,
of
what
passage.
is a prime
Suggestion,
directive? It's more
right?
like a prime
It's a prime.
guideline.
Yeah, it's a prime guideline. It's not a hard and fast rule. So yeah, you can tap your comm badge and reach out to Threx, and Threx comes on. He's like, Commander, how goes it on the planet?
Well, let's start
You see, what
with
happened was
the Hur'q may not be extinct, but they're not really active either. And then I'll go through a rundown of what's happened.
Yeah, because Threx is like, what are they sleeping?
Pretty
Yeah,
close.
that's kind of it.
we found babies.
When you go through all of it, there's a moment, and he goes, "Wow, this is fascinating. I mean, this is an amazing find. We probably first contact protocol, but we're here now, so that's all right. They came to you, right?
Mhm.
As far as this stasis chamber that you found, I share all of your concerns. I share enough of your concerns that I worry that there might be a very hard choice to make here. And I fear that falls to me as the captain. We cannot let the Hur'q return as they were. Am I understood, Commander?
Understood.
I trust your judgment. And I do not wish to interfere with the Tako people and their historical artifacts. But they must be aware. They must be made aware of what the consequences of that device failing. And furthermore, if they are hesitant to make the safest decision for their own people and the universe at large, we found them, somebody else will. And that device is a ticking time bomb.
Yes, sir.
I will I'm going to send some things back to DS9, and there's an archaeologist there and some historians that maybe we can get some more information from. But I do think it is best course to educate them on the dangers of that device, and do what we can to preserve their culture as well as the rest of the galaxies. Threx out. I will expect an update from you, say in a few hours.
I will let you know as we do. They're in a meeting right now to deliberate what to do, and we will provide them more information as they ask.
Fantastic, Captain out. About that time, Tak enters. Well, he kind of pokes his corn husky head in, and he's like, "I am sorry to bother you, but your presence is requested with the elders. I can take you.
Yes, please lead the way.
And he does. He kind of has a meandering gait, but he gets you to, he talks kind of as he goes, and he tells you a little bit about his crops, and harvest season is soon, and he's got great great one of the best harvests. He's looking forward to one of the best harvests they've seen, and since he was a what do you call little bugs? Since he was a hatchling. No, I don't.
Since it was a sapling, maybe.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
like a little husk.
Yeah. Since I was a baby corn, it's no, but he and he leads them to back to close to where Kitaka's office was, or her workspace, and they're attached to it is another building that has like a large chamber that resembles kind of like a council room sort of thing, and there's a raised table in the middle, and around it are about 5 of the Tako creatures, and at the head of the table is Kitaka. You do see Chitika at the table, as well as some others that you may have seen in passing, but one has kind of like thorny protrusions off of him, but also the plume on his coming off of his carapace and his head is also kind of a deep, rich red, almost rose petal esque, and you have another one that looks like almost like a hedge. It's got far more of the branches and twigs with greenery coming off of them um, around him, but he's a little shorter than the others as well, and a little wider than those. And but yeah, they're all gathered around this table, and they have been clearly awaiting your arrival. And Tok he leads you in, but he exits. It is clear that he is not part of the uh, the governing structure in of these people. So Kitaka opens her hands to you again, as she does in greeting, and she says, "We I have explained some, but my understanding is also incomplete. We must learn more of our ancestors, and you seem to have confirmed that this Hur'q that you speak of are the the fathers of the Tako.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Um, Chichitika is kind of gruff, and he says they should have not been allowed to interact with the artifact. I am. You are letting, and he kind of looks, and he's like, he looks at you all, and almost as if he's going to say something to the effect of, please, no offense, but it's almost like he doesn't care, and he's just like, they should not have. They are the first people to come to this land, and besides us, and they do not. They know nothing of us. Why let them interact with our sacred artifacts? And uh, Kitaka is like, she kind of holds up a hand and she says, "Please, Chichitika, this is how they learn. We must show them." And the hedgerow pipes up, and he says, "But not so much so soon. You." And he looks at you all, at the crew, and he says, "Kitaka says that it scared you, or it worried you, and you have concerns. These are our sacred things. You just don't understand them. It is not. They have not posed a danger in 1,000 years. Why would they be a danger now? These are just our ancestors, and it is their belongings that we keep for them."
They are not a danger now. They have the potential to be a danger in 50 years. And the timing on that is just how long the battery lasts. Also, this quadrant is getting more explorers. If we found you, others could find you. And unfortunately, your ancestors were weapons. And we're worried other people will use them that way again.
What do you mean our ancestors were weapons? They were only people. They had weapons, but and Kitaka, she's like, you said you could teach us about your Hur'q.
Yes,
And the Chichitika is like, ha, pa. We are not this Hur'q.
that is
We
correct.
are Tako.
That is correct. You are not this Hur'q. You are many, many generations removed from what the Hur'q were. You've adapted to this planet. Your lifestyle is completely different. Your world is completely different. But your ancestors, we believe, were Hur'q.
Please, if you
Okay.
have information that you may share with us, please do. And you don't have to go verbally through all of it, but you do have to verbally orate it to
Yeah.
them. But we can do a minuscule time skip to go ahead.
And I'm
uh,
gonna let Haskins do a lot of the talking on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 1,400 years ago.
Yeah.
so, and you mentioned the that you are part Klingon, and that the Klingon and the Hur'q fought a great war many centuries ago.
Almost decimated Kronos. That.
Kronos, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, Kitaka listens very carefully, as well does the one that looks kind of like a rose. Chichitika is, yeah, he seems like he bristles. The tree branches and the greenery almost move with an air, like almost like there is a brisk breeze blowing through the chamber, and there is not, but his almost quivering and as you can tell he is getting upset with the things that he's hearing about the ancestors. And Kitaka is taking it all fairly in stride as well. Like I said, the one with the rose petals, the one that looks more like a bush, um, he is also listening. There are times when he kind of turns his head away when it talks about more of the brutal history of the Hur'q. And um, you do have to you do mention that before interference by the Dominion, that they were, by all accounts, peaceful people. This was something that was done to them, and the two that are getting angry are more. You do get it becomes clear. Well, they did not know what they were doing. They were driven mad by their oppressors. This
Yes.
is We cannot blame them. We cannot believe that if this chamber that you say houses their offspring, we cannot say that they will be aggressive like them. They will
It,
not have the oppressors.
they do not have the oppressors, but they still have the need for that chemical, and that need is what drove your ancestors to being weapons.
But some of them learn to live without it. Who's to say that these will not? To wake the ancestors be we could learn so much of our history from them. I mean, you have given us so much information, but their firsthand, genetic memory would be so much more.
What was put in place in the past with your ancestors would be very easy for other creatures to come and manipulate and take advantage of again. And not only are we talking about potentially delivering a whole people as a weapon to someone else, we're also talking about if you bring them back, you know from your own legends and histories, they will suffer and hurt for the lack of this. It took generations for your people to break this.
The one with the thorns and the red plumage speaks for the first time and says, "Can we? Is there not a way to lengthen the life of this energy source? Is there something we can do to preserve the ancestors as they lay, but not allow them to hatch?" And there is a murmur of, there's clearly they are not. This group is not agreed, and Kitaka is still remaining very quiet and thoughtful in this moment, and you know, and the the red petaled one is. I do not wish to take the life of young ones, but if they are dangerous, it could mean our entire civilization.
And
In
many others besides. Go ahead.
in theory, could extend the powers, but I would have to examine the ship just so I could figure out what energy wavelength to triangulate it. If I don't know what their technology is like, it would be the equivalent. I could overcharge the system and short it out.
It's something
We
else
would
you
also
should.
want to do so. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's something else you should also consider. Are you willing to take up arms and defend them if others come to try and take them? In fact, if my people, well, half of my people, the Cleons, if they find out there are Hur'q here, they will come and just blast into your settlement from the sky. They will rain fire and destruction on you to keep the Hur'q from rising up again.
And even if
We
we
will,
mention nothing, the likelihood they may arrive is quite high since we have found you.
and at mention of someone raining down uh, a barrage of fire from above, Chititika is he bristles and stands up and he's like, "Then we will retake arms. We still have them. We can defend our and at this point that Kitaka is like, we have laid down our arms for centuries. We will not take them up again. It is not the time." And there is argument. There's but we must defend our culture and our people. And yes, but defending our culture and our people requires that we do not let these younglings hatch. And there is this tug of war going between the various sides of, do we extend the life of this power source? Do we get rid of it now? Which the fifth person on the council that has not yet spoken, he has yellow plumage and black a black carapace, and he sounds older than the rest, and he's like, we can't, what if we just destroy them? And nobody wants that. That's a mega violation of, we cannot kill our ancestors. What good would we be? We would dishonor our traditions, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And so they are having an argument, and Kitaka cannot rein them in. Would any of you like to try to interject? If so, give me a command presence roll, or a presence command roll.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty to kind of be heard through this din, I'm going to say a 3. We do have, I believe, 5 momentum in the tray, so
Yeah, I'm gonna buy a die.
okay, sounds good. And remember, I have been remiss in mentioning it, but you always do have your values that you can invoke and use determination, which grants you a die essentially that's rolled a 1 already. So if you have a value that might pertain to this kind of a situation, or can sell me on a value that may not immediately seem like it can.
Rozrin has one that's lives are sacred,
Okay.
which, I mean,
That's a pretty good one.
I got 4 successes.
Oh, okay. Well, fantastic. So difficulty 3, you did gain one there. So yeah, you start to speak, and Kitaka notices that you're about to speak, and she does her best to also calm them. But as soon as your voice starts to ring out, that reduces to a murmur, and they stop and look at you to listen.
I do, unfortunately, in this circumstance, represent a whole other government. And whatever is decided here today, I have to be comfortable with there being no potential threat from this device. So, I do not in any way wish to overstep your own internal decision. This is a huge part of your culture. It's a huge part of your traditions. And I would very, very much like to reach a solution that we are all happy with, that I can take back and say I am comfortable that these will never be a threat.
Chititika is calm. He's not calm but controlled.
Right.
As he says, I appreciate your concern and your pursuit of removing the threat. But they are our ancestors, and the threat is only to our people.
That is not entirely true.
And Kitaka, I'm sorry. She says, Chititika, you do not understand. And he says, what I understand is they would hatch and they would destroy. They could potentially destroy us if they could not be healed, but they could not leave this planet. They have no ability to return to the skies.
And what about the next ship that finds this planet?
Kitaka agrees with you, and she says, this Serenitis found us. What is to stop someone else from coming? The threat is to the larger galaxy that we have to understand. There are other civilizations beyond our own. And he says, but they do not get to decide our culture, and they do not get to decide or preserve or destroy our history that is not theirs. And it is evident to all of you that this won't be decided in this one meeting. There is a lot to discuss, and Kitaka, taking the information that you've given on the Hur'q, she does request some time. You feel, I can tell you that she is giving all cues that you're getting from her. She is completely understanding of your concerns, and she shares them. But she also has, she cannot make the decision alone.
Right.
So she is going to ask that at this point, the four of you step out and let them meet. She outside the chambers, Tok meets you, and Tok says, "Please, we are preparing. We are preparing a feast. We have never had visitors. We would love if you joined us for our evening meal." And he's a very kindly sort, and he has a smaller child with him, younger, and 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 they just start asking all kinds of, like, where do you come from, and what is your name, and why do you have a tail, and why, and why, looks at Charlie and is like, we, you are smooth green, and is very, and wants to talk, and all this stuff, and fascinated by everyone there, and like looks at Rozrin, and almost reaches up almost to touch the spots, and is like, your plume is small, it's like um but yeah, and so if you want, you can stay and enjoy the meal while the council continues to deliberate. You have been invited to this social event.
I will step aside to update the captain on what's going on,
Fantastic.
and
um
then I'll
And
join
Robson
the.
will express some concern. At some point, after Halada is done whatever, or to whoever, and will say, maybe it's just my precautionary nature, but just to make sure we have no surprises, perhaps we should just keep a subtle eye on that building with the device in it, just to make sure somebody doesn't decide that they need to do something rash and make a decision for other people.
That
Are we?
seems very reasonable.
We can keep an eye on it, but can we stop them? I mean, it is their property.
Well,
We have orders to stop them if they're going to wake them up, but I don't think they have the technology to do so.
Yeah.
could we, I mean, this is a crazy thought on my part, Commander, but we have scans of the device. Could we just beam it aboard the Serenitis and beam down a replication? Bait and switch, they'd be none the wiser.
Rosman kind of is like, "Mm."
Uh, I I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either. Hang on. I have to process this.
My motivation, Commander, is just simply the fact, if the Klingon homeworld gets wind of this, they will come here and blow the civilization off the planet, whether
They
or
will.
not.
I'm
They will nuke it from orbit, just to
I'm
be sure.
somewhat concerned if I don't present this right that will happen anyway. But that is a bridge we will have to cross as we get to it.
And then the other concern is
Let's call that
Leggett
Plan
DeKenny
B.
coming here and taking the eggs, because he's not going to care what their feelings are about.
Right. Let's call that Plan B. Let's hear what their Plan A is, and let's call that Plan B.
Mhm. Yeah, I would still like to keep it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just so that we have some warning. I mean, I wasn't necessarily suggesting, we lay booby traps or anything, although now that I mention
Let's not booby trap the sacred site.
it.
um
Charlie's
just
Charlie's a little confused. He's not sure he understands mammals at the moment. He's like, "What? Wait, what? What's going on?"
when the reptile feels more closer to the bugs than the than the mammals.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah.
um
All
at
all
this
I
time,
want to be know is things ahead of time. That's all I'm suggesting at this
sure,
point, is that we keep an eye on that area, just, so if we see someone going in there, we have a heads up, because we would need to let somebody know that has happened
of course,
at the very, very
well,
least.
at around this time, you see the council file out of their chambers, and some of them approach closer to you, some of them just return to their homes. Nobody goes to the temple site, or where the chamber is. So you you're fairly confident, and you didn't see any other points of egress into that chamber, so you're like, well, I'm going to keep Rozrin keeps an eye on it. But as Kitaka and the yellow and the red plumed Tako approach the table, um she it's kind of, we're enjoying this party. You guys have been eating for a little while. They're having this nice, everything seems like it's going well. Keeping an eye on things. You don't see anything amiss happening. Victra and Liv are at this party too, because the people who came and got them were like, "You can come too. Come eat with us, visitors." And so everything seems to be going fine. At one point, Kitaka approaches you, Halada, and she kind of beckons you to follow her away from the crowd. And night has fallen. It is dark. There's firelight and things like that. And she beckons you away from the crowd.
I'll make sure Rozrin knows where I'm going and then follow.
Sounds good. And she speaks quietly with some urgency, and she says, "They do not wish to change things. They wish to take the risk, as it were. I disagree. And so does sorry, I didn't have a name for a third person. I don't know why. We'll call them let's see, we had Tac. Let's go for sorry, everything that came to mind was a brand name. We'll just say Takatko. And we'll say he's the older one. And he and I have an idea. He is like me. We are interested in the ancient technology, but only as a means to uplift our society in the future. Not as I don't even wish to leave the planet. Eventually, someone will. But anyhow, 50 years is not enough time. Our lifespans are not long, and that may be 2 life cycles away for most of us. But I cannot leave our children to that fate. And we have an idea. And she says, if you gather, I will probably need one more of your people at least to meet right here. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay. Rozrin, Charlie?
Yeah, Rozrin's up for.
I'll ask Haskins too, like.
Yeah. Honestly, if the 4 of you step away, there is still enough happening around that nobody really notices.
Okay.
There's it's not gonna make that big of a scene. They are enjoying the visitors, but they've also kind of forgotten that the kids are very interested, but the kids are also going off to bed. The adults seem to just be enjoying, hey,
there's a party.
There's a party. So, and apologies, we are going to go just a little bit late. We are coming up on 10 o'clock right now. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty fast, but let's get through this last little bit. So you return to the area. Kitaka is there, and she beckons you farther into the treed forested area that is around the temple. And as you go around, she says, apologies for the means of transport, but it is the best that we have. And she kind of moves some things away, and there is a tunnel going down under the temple, and you will have to crawl into it, and it is big enough for you all, but you will have to kind of hunch down. She even kind of crouches down, and her body elongates in such a way that she just swiftly moves through. But you can follow her if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Rozrin will be like right behind her.
Okay, and it comes up, and there is, as she gets to the end of this dark tunnel, there is no light in it. There is the sound of stone against stone, and a light appears, and the elder Takatako is there, and he helps her out, and he holds out a hand to help those of you out, and he says, we cannot leave our children to the fate of our ancestors. And they take you to the chamber, and they ask, do you have a way, if we give you these eggs, can you get us something that looks like them to fool our others, but that is safe, that when the 50 years ends, if that they will just seem to die.
Plan
Absolutely.
B is a go.
Plan B is the go indeed. Plan B
Plan B.
became Plan A. Um, so yeah,
Can you keep these eggs from? Can you keep these hatchlings from hurting others?
yes,
We do not wish them to be killed, but we cannot risk it here.
yes, we can make sure they are not a danger.
We can definitely take them somewhere where they will be kept safe and secure.
But the device must stay.
Yes,
We didn't even know there were eggs in them. No one is going to know what it. They do not look like our eggs.
We could replicate a fake-looking device with fake eggs.
If you
with us here, with us here, can we? And I'm going to talk to Charlie. Can we get a transporter beam to lock onto the eggs and transport them into a stasis field on the Shenanigans until we can get there and get them into a more permanent storage solution?
I believe we could, but there would be like a couple seconds where we'd have to remove them from stasis to initiate teleport or transport. But it would only be for a few seconds, and I'm like possibly like half a second, and I'm reasonably sure we can maintain stasis.
Okay.
Commander?
So that would be my preference, and then replicate something that looks like them and transport it back in.
Yeah, this I'm going to go ahead and contact sickbay to set up a containment field there because I think we'll be best suited to make sure that they're kept vital in the
Have
sickbay.
a couple security officers on hand just in case something goes south.
Alrighty. So we have a plan. This is going to require all four of you to some degree. So I'm going to be looking for like 6 successes amongst the four of you, but you're each going to be doing a task specific to your role. So even if that's Halada, if that's you commanding and being like, do this, do that, do this, if you have a talent or anything that applies to that, let's use it. And we'll give you a presence command role to, if that's a good role for, we could even do reason command,
No,
whatever's presence command.
Presence command is just fine.
Okay. And then Keed, you're going to do either reason medical or control medical for how you want to coordinate setting things up with the Shenanigans.
Reason medical.
Okay. And then Charlie, you're going to be doing your stuff to get him out of stasis, get him back into stasis, all that stuff. So yours is going to be probably a control science or an insight or reason science, whichever's best for you. And then Rozrin, you're kind of going to be keeping a lookout just in case somebody catches wind that you're away from the party. You do have a security team that's still there, and of course the pilots are still there, and the other scientists are still there.
And I'll be coordinating whatever security is needed on the ship too for this whole process.
There you go. So if you have present security, if that works for you, and then for the actual transporting, we're just going to say that the ship's assistance role in this case is going to be computers, I guess engineering or computer science, what we'd say, probably science.
Yeah.
Can I spend 2 points of our momentum?
Sure.
I want to activate my walking encyclopedia talent, which will then give me for the rest of the session. I get additional die in transporter field manipulation because
there you go.
Nice.
It'd be nice to have.
We still have 3 if anybody else would like to buy momentum at this point.
You want to buy a die?
Yeah.
So Rozrin's taking one? Okay.
Yeah, I'll take one.
Anybody else?
Haskins?
Yeah, I'll take one.
We still have 1 left.
We need this to work.
And then the ship. Are you buying one, Halada?
Sure, why not?
Okay, and then for the ship, if somebody wants to roll a separate die and just if you can get a 13 or lower, the ship also will generate a success for you.
And I'm going to apply my biology, xenobiology focus to this.
That's fine.
I'm going to go ahead and roll for the ship.
Okay, sounds good.
So the ship got 1 and I got 3.
I got 5.
I got 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have 7, 12. How many did you get, Irax?
I got 1 success, but I rolled a 20?
Oh
That's
no.
Yay.
13 successes and a 20. It's
Yeah.
uh, we'll go
I
ahead. The complication is that you hear voices outside and you hear Chititika going, where the visitors and Kitaka, where are they? Find them. Uh
Okay.
so you hear that, but other than that, you guys succeed. There is a rush of like people talking on their comm badges, tricorders beeping and zapping and things going on. And so I assume so. Charlie, actually, you pop open the cryo chamber, right? And and you are like, beamed us into. There's a
Okay.
and they phase out, and the crowd chamber is empty, and there's the crowd chamber is kind of hissing and beeping, and Kitaka's like, quickly, they are coming, and but with 13 successes, the and there comes another thing. Charlie closes the hatch, taps on the thing, resets it, and uh Kitaka's like, you must leave, and pushes
Back
you
in the
guys like.
hole.
Dive into the tunnel.
Mexico are like shoving you through the hole. They're like, get in the hole. And like to the point that she's like, and you may stay in there for a moment while we wait. And closes it off. And so you guys, um it looks
Sneeze.
yeah, nobody sneeze. To wrap up, the switch was made. There was no boulder out of the wall to chase you guys. Um Chititika may have suspicions, but he doesn't know what he's looking at. He is not one of the sciencey minds of the Taco race, and you guys get out of the tunnel, are able to return, filter back in phases to the party, so it doesn't look too obvious that you've all just returned from somewhere.
Nefarious.
Yeah, most of the party doesn't even seem to realize that you were gone. I mean, like,
Nice.
there's a couple people like that have kind of fallen asleep with their drinks, and they're just, they're kind of like bug hobbits. Like they're just enjoying food and drink and people, and I don't even know if they knew what it would be like to have guests. So, but with all of that, and with everything seemingly no different than it was before the meeting that day, they bid you farewell, and they allow you to continue studying the ruins and to take whatever scans and things that you need. And you are welcome back to our place, and you learn by the end of it, Halada, as Kitaka is has grasped your hand in her forelimbs and says, kind of, she gives you a look, and you know that it is a private look shared between you, that it's, a thankful look on her part, and also kind of an inside knowing that this is a secret that you guys share, and but yeah, she bids you farewell. You return to the Serenitis. Threx meets you in the transporter room, or meets you in the shuttle bay, and he says, "Yeah, not sure what to think of our new stowaways, but we'll have to figure out. I've gotten word to my admiral, or to Admiral somebody. I don't have a name for him. I had bug names. That's it. uh, I have.
Hey, cheer and name an admiral, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Give us an admiral name. But I've let the admiral know, and also Captain Marzon over on the binary, that, but it has been kept very quiet outside of those encrypted channels.
In
And
the meantime, Captain, I'd kind of like to get him out of sick bay as soon as we can.
Understood, Doctor. We will arrange that, and that is the story of the Taco people on a planet we never named, that I said we were going to. But yeah, so everything is fine, but you do have a whole bunch of Hur'q eggs. chilling on the Serenitis.
We need to
Shiny.
put that in our inventory for future reference.
Yeah, literally,
gosh.
literally chilling in the Serenitis in a crowd chamber.
So I'm thinking omelets for breakfast.
Ooh, crunchy omelets. As it is, I thank you again, y'all, for coming out for the Voyages of. I had a great time. I hope our cast did too. We love
Definitely.
telling stories for you all. We are going to raid Q Times at the end of the show. They are also doing a Star Trek Adventures playthrough. Their ship is the USS Ross. So stick
Hey,
around
that's
for
my
that.
doggy's name. Yay.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you to my cast for being here. I'm gonna drop all their details in the chat so you guys can see where else you can find them. We love you. We want you to be safe. And tune back in next or on Thursday for Illuminated Page, and again on Monday for our mid-season finale. We love you guys. Thank you, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.